А ми десь до другої маємо закінчити, так? Я сподіваюся.
Взагалі на захист відводиться 2 години, ну,
Тобто
плюс-мінус.
навіть до першої, якщо трошки
Так, так.
затримаємося, то до пів
Мгм.
на другу. Ну, до другої точно
Так.
закінчимо, так?
Я думаю, да, да, звісно. Так.
Мгм. Дякую. То мене питають, коли я зможу приєднатися до іншого засідання.
Мгм.
Дякую.
Мгм. Зараз пару хвилин і розпочнемо.
Наталя Валерівна, я вмикаю запис і об 11 тоді розпочинаємо.
Так, так, зараз ще одна хвилинка. Добре, так. Все, ви дозвіл дали на всім, так, правильно, аспіранту для поширення. Ну, все, ми ж перевіряли, все добре. Так, добрий день. Рада вітати вас, шановні колеги, на захисті нашого китайського аспіранта. Засвідчую, що сьогодні 1 серпня 2025 року 11:00. Дозвольте мені, як голові, розпочати засідання. Відповідно до рішення вченої ради Сумського національного аграрного університету наказом ректора номер 1180 ОС 81 ОС від 05.06.2025 року в Сумському національному аграрному університеті утворено спеціалізовану вчену раду для прийняття до розгляду та проведення разового захисту дисертації ЮЙ Чжунчень на тему стратегічне управління корпоративною соціальною відповідальністю у китайських публічних компаніях, узгодженість корпоративного управління на фінансової звітності та економічної ефективності англійською мовою Strategic Management of Corporate Social Responsibility in Chinese Listed Companies, The Nexus of Corporate Governance, CSI Reporting and Economic Performance. На здобуття ступеню доктора філософії у галузі знань 07, управління та адміністрування за спеціальністю 073 менеджмент. Склад ради, головуючий на засіданні, Стоянець Наталя Валерівна, доктор економічних наук, професор кафедри менеджменту імені професора Любові Івановни Михайлової, Сумський національний аграрний університет. Рецензенти Орехова Альвіна Іванівна, доктор економічних наук, професор, завідувач кафедри менеджменту імені професора Любові Івановни Михайлової, Сумський національний аграрний університет. Харченка Тетяна Миколаївна, кандидат економічних наук, доцент кафедри менеджменту імені професора Михайлової, Сумський національний аграрний університет. І опоненти Брінь Павло Володимирович, кандидат економічних наук, доцент, професор кафедри менеджменту, Національний технічний університет, Харківський політехнічний інститут, Безверхий Константин Вікторович, доктор економічних наук, доцент кафедри фінансового аналізу та аудиту Державного торгівельного економічного університету міста Києва, посада членів спеціалізованої вченої ради вказані на дати захисту дисертаційної роботи. Прошу зареєструватися, шановні рецензенти та опоненти. Реєструємось. Отже, на підставі реєстраційної картки присутні 5 членів спеціалізованої вченої ради із 5 затверджених наказом ректора номер 1181 ОС від 05.06.2025 року. Кворум необхідний для засідання є, і ми маємо всі офіційні підстави для того, щоб розпочати засідання. Засідання спеціалізованої вченої ради оголошую відкритим. Сьогодні на порядку денному захист дисертації на здобуття ступеня доктора філософії, аспіранта кафедри обліку та оподаткування Сумського національного аграрного університету ЮЙ Чжунчень на тему «Стратегічне управління корпоративною соціальною відповідальністю у китайських публічних компаніях, узгодженість корпоративного управління, нефінансової звітності та економічної ефективності». Англійською мовою «Strategic Management of Corporate Social Responsibility in Chinese listed companies, the nexus of corporate governance, CSI, reporting and economic performance» за спеціальністю 073 «Менеджмент». Роботу виконано в Сумському національному аграрному університеті, науковий керівник, кандидат економічних наук, доцент Пасько Олег Віталійович. І до спеціалізованої вченої ради надійшли такі документи. Заява щодо проведення атестації здобувача, копія першої сторінки паспорта громадянина Китайської Республіки, копія диплома магістра, витяг з наказу про зарахування до аспірантури, засвідченої в встановленому порядку, академічна довідка про виконання відповідної освітньо-наукової програми, висновок наукового керівника, кандидата економічних наук, доцента Паська Олега Віталійовича, висновок про наукову новизну, теоретичне та практичне значення результатів дисертації, дисертація в друкованому та електронних виглядах і відбитки копій наукових публікацій, зарахованих за темою дисертації, засвідченої в встановленому порядку. І всі документи відповідають встановленим вимогам. Дисертація до захисту подається вперше. Хто за запропонований порядок денний, прошу голосувати. Хто за? Так, хто проти? Утримався? Немає. Тобто пропозиція приймається. І дозвольте зачитати бібліографічні дані аспіранта. ЮЙ Чжунчень, 1996 року народження, громадянин Китайської Народної Республіки, має повну вищу освіту, здобуту в Цзянському коледжі Лісоаграрного університету Китаю 2019 року, а також ступінь магістра з харчових технологій, отриманий в Сумському національному аграрному університеті в 2020 році. Сфера професійної компетентності охоплює ландшафтний дизайн, харчові технології, управління персоналом, управління проєктами та соціальну роботу. Аспірантуру закінчив у 2025 році Сумського національного аграрного університету Міністерства освіти і науки міста Суми. Дисертацію виконано в Сумському національному аграрному університеті. Вибір теми дисертаційної роботи був затверджений протоколом номер 5 засідання вченої ради Сумського національного аграрного університету від 29.11.2021 року. Тема була скоригована протоколом номер 20 засідання вченої ради СНАУ від 26.05.2025 року. ЮЙ Чжунчень закінчив освітньо-наукову програму в 2025 році. 28 квітня 2025 року відбулося розширене засідання кафедри обліку та оподаткування за спеціальністю 073 менеджменту, де дисертація була рекомендована до рецензування та захисту в спеціалізованій вченій раді. Основні висновки дослідження були представлені в достатній кількості наукових праць, зокрема в 10 наукових публікаціях. Зазначимо, що одна з них побачила світ у періодичних наукових виданнях, які включені до баз даних Web of Science та Scopus. Додатково 6 наукових статей з'явилося у фахових виданнях, 3 одноосібні, що внесено до переліку наукових фахових видань України. Важливо відзначити, що результати дослідження також були висвітлені на 3 міжнародних науково-практичних конференціях, на яких здобувач активно приймав участь. Наукові публікації відповідають вимогам пункту 8.9 порядку присудження ступеня доктора філософії та скасування рішення разової спеціалізованої вченої ради закладу вищої освіти наукової установи про присудження ступеня доктора філософії, постанова Кабінету міністрів України від 12 січня 2022 року номер 44. І дисертація відповідає вимогам наказу МОН України номер 40 від 12.01.2017 року про затвердження вимог до оформлення дисертації та порядку присудження ступеня доктора філософії та скасування рішенням разової спеціалізованої вченої ради закладу вищої освіти наукової установи про присудження ступеня доктора філософії. Це постанова Кабінету міністрів України номер 44 від 12 січня 2022 року. Чи є питання у членів спеціалізованої вченої ради? Так, питань немає. І здобувачем погоджено, що захист дисертації буде проводитись англійською мовою. To present the main result of research, the word is given to graduate student ЮЙ Чжунчень. Please share your screen and switch on PPT.
Okay. Now I begin. Good morning, dear professors. It's a great honor to begin my defense with your support and help. The topic of my dissertation is strategic management of corporate social responsibility in Chinese listed companies, the nexus of corporate governance, CSR reporting, and economic performance. My report is divided into 3 parts, including the introduction, results, and conclusion. First is the introduction part. This dissertation aims to develop a strategic management framework for corporate social responsibility in Chinese public enterprise by integrating 3 key dimensions: corporate governance, CSR reporting, and economic performance. The study investigates how these elements interact and influence each other with China's institutional and market context. It explores the mechanisms through which governance structures support CSR disclosure, how CSR practices contribute to firm value, and how these processes can be aligned strategically. By combining theoretical insights and empirical evidence, this research seeks to offer a comprehensive model that guides firms in embedding CSR into core business strategy, enhancing both accountability and long-term financial resilience. As shown on slide 5, this dissertation addresses 7 interrelated tasks to achieve its overall aim. First, it begins by examining the conceptual relationship between ESG and CSR, identifying overlapping domains, and proposing an integrated framework that combines ESG metrics with CSR's normative goals. The second task evaluates how board composition and ownership structure such as independence, CEO duality, and stake ownership affect ESG performance in Chinese public enterprises. The third task develops a typology of CSR strategies among Chinese firms, classifying them by engagement as intensity and linking them to financial, operational, and reputational outcomes. Task 4 investigates how board characteristics such as size, frequency of meetings, and committee structure influence ESG disclosure and transparency. The fifth task analyzes the relationship between ESG performance and profitability, ROA and ROE, and considers how these effects differ across China's regions. Task 6 explores the role of managerial overconfidence in shaping ESG performance, assessing its influence across environmental, social, and governance dimensions. Finally, Task 7 proposes a strategic CSR management model that integrates governance, implementation, and stakeholder engagement into a unified framework tailored to China's institutional context. The scientific novelty of the obtained result is summarized on slide 7 to 11. First, for the first time, this dissertation introduced an integrated strategic CSR framework that connects governance, operational, and stakeholder dimensions into a single cohesive system. This model captures the dynamic complexity of CSR in modern firms, addressing both global norms and China's institutional context. Second, the study improves current understanding by uncovering how managerial overconfidence shapes ESG outcomes, with the strongest effect found in the social dimension. It also refines governance theory by revealing that high meeting frequency may signal inefficiency, while independent board and specialized committees drive better disclosure. Third, CSR research is enhanced through a novel typology of firm-level CSR strategies, distinguishing between leaders, developers, and minimalists. This typology explains how strategic CSR adoption links to financial and reputational benefits, and demonstrates that CSR is not uniform but highly stratified in practices. Fourth, the dissertation offers an improved perspective on how board futures affect sustainability reporting, showing that board independence and committee structure are critical drivers of transparency, while board size and CEO duality remain insignificant. It combines agency and resource dependence theories to explain governance mechanisms more precisely in emerging markets. Fifth, the research improves ESG theory by confirming that every environmental, social, and governance factors each have distinct and significant effects on financial performance, especially in China's western regions. These regional variations challenge the assumption of uniform ESG impact across geographies and highlight the role of local institutional conditions. Finally, this work has acquired further development by proposing a unified CSR ESG integration framework that aligns measurable ESG metrics with CSR's ethical basis. The model also stresses the importance of leadership authenticity, cultural adaptation, and governance transparency for embedding sustainability into business strategy. Here is the result part. The key novelty of this research lies in the developing an integrated conceptual framework that unites ESG's measurable metrics with CSR's ethical and voluntary foundations. Unlike earlier studies that treated ESG and CSR as separate or fragmented approaches, my work systematically bridged them conceptually, strategically, and operationally. As shown in Figure 1, I clarify their distinct origins but emphasizing their overlapping domains. Table 5 introduces a refined analytical comparison, highlighting how integration of CSR values and ESG structures can resolve tensions and strengthen performance. Figure 2 presents a new model of alignment across strategy, operations, and finance. The layered view is original and has not been offered in peer literature. This contribution is novel because it reframes ESG and CSR not just as complementary, but as independent elements of sustainability. The model can be used by both researchers and practitioners to design governance systems that link ethical intent with measurable outcomes. In doing so, it provides a more holistic, actionable path to corporate resilience and long-term value. In this part of study, I introduce a key innovation, a structured, data-driven typology of CSR engagement in Chinese manufacturing firms. Unlike peer research that treated CSR as a uniform concept, my work identifies meaningful differences in how companies approach corporate responsibility. This typology classifies firms into 3 distinct clusters: CSR leaders, CSR developers, and CSR minimalists. Slide 14 presents 2 key outputs. Table 1 shows the normalized CSR scores across 6 dimensions, including environmental sustainability, corporate governance, and ethical conduct. The results reveal clear patterns. CSR leaders showing strong, balanced engagement across all areas. CSR developers focus more on employees and suppliers. CSR minimalists meet only basic legal requirements. Table 2 complements this with qualitative comparison of CSR practices, helping us understand not just how much, but how CSR is done. Then, on slide 15, Figure 1 maps the distribution of firms across clusters. It confirms that larger firms in competitive sectors are more likely to adopt advanced CSR practices. Figure 2 compares CSR engagement levels visually, using that CSR leaders significantly outperform that other 2 groups, especially in ethics and employee rights and governance. This novelty of this contribution lies in the combining statistical clustering with CSR performance outcomes. The typology explains how ownership structure, market pressure, and policy environments shape CSR choices. It also links these choices to business performance, financial, operational, and reputational. The structured model moves beyond binary or compliance-based views. It provides a practical tool for benchmarking CSR engagement and designing targeted strategies for improvement. For emerging markets like China, where CSR is still evolving, this typology offers invaluable guidance to firms, regulators, and investors. This study reveals that board independence and committee structures, not board size or CEO duality, are the key governance drivers of ESG reporting in Chinese firms. As shown on slide 16, the regression analysis confirms that a higher proportion of independent directors significantly improves sustainability disclosure. The number of board committees also shows a positive effect. These two features constantly support ESG transparency across models. In contrast, board size and CEO duality are not statistically significant. This challenges earlier assumptions that more directors or split leadership automatically enhance governance. Instead, effectiveness comes from oversight quality, not size or title. Interestingly, board meeting frequency is negatively associated with ESG reporting. As seen in Table 1 and 5, more frequent meetings do not translate into better sustainability practices, possibly reflecting reactive governance or internal challenges. Slide 17 presents the robustness test using ESG scores. The same result hold hypotheses H2, H4, and H5 are supported. Independent boards and strong committee structures lead to better ESG outcomes. Meeting frequency has a negative effect, and the board size again shows no impact. The novelty here is twofold. First, the use of a large recent panel from China. Second, the clear separation is of which governance features actually matter for ESG. This results of a practical guidance for boards, especially in emerging markets, where regulatory frameworks are still evolving. This part of study explores how internal governance structures influence overall ESG performance in Chinese listed firms. Unlike peer research that often relied on Western governance assumptions, this analysis uses local data to test 8 hypotheses based on board composition and ownership structure. The findings are presented on slide 18 and 19. They show that board independence, management shareholding, and chairman's ownership and state ownership have a significant positive effect on ESG outcomes. These factors consistently enhance ESG performance across models, including the robustness test with ROE as an alternative metric. In contrast, board size and CEO duality have no significant impact. Board meeting frequency surprisingly has a negative effect, suggesting that more meeting may reflect internal inefficiencies rather than stronger ESG oversight. The novelty lies in combining governance and ownership perspectives within China's regulatory and cultural setting. This framework reveals that aligned managerial incentives and independent oversight are more effective than structural board size or leadership separation. It also shows that state-owned enterprises outperform private firms in ESG, driven by policy mandates and public accountability. In sum, this study refines ESG governance theory by offering a clear, data-based view of what really works and what does not in the Chinese context. This part of the reach presents the new evidence on how ESG performance relates to financial outcomes in Chinese listed firms. Unlike previous studies that focused mainly on developed economies, this study uses 33,215 firm per year observations from 2013 to 2023, providing large sample insights from an emerging market context. As shown on slide 21, each ESG component, environmental, ER, social, SR, and governance, GR, has a significant and positive effect on return on assets. Among the three, governance has the strongest impact. Model 4 in the same table shows that overall ESG performance has the highest explanatory power for profitability. This result confirms hypothesis H1 through H4. To ensure robustness, the study tests the same relationships using return on equity as an alternative measure. The result displayed on slide 21. Table 5 remain consistent and statistically significant across all four models. This strengthens the reliability of the findings and confirms that ESG is positively associated with firm performance. Further, slide 22 explores the regional heterogeneity. ESG performance has the strongest positive effect in Western China, a modest effect in the East, and no significant effect in Central region. These findings add a novel dimension to ESG research by showing that local institutional and market conditions shape the financial relevance of ESG practices. Finally, Table 7 on slide 22 summarizes the hypothesis testing results. All four hypotheses are supported. This confirms that ESG performs across all dimensions, service as a real financial driver in China's listed companies. The novelty of this research lies in three contributions. First, it disaggregates ESG into environmental, social, and governance factors. Second, it confirms that each factor contributes positively and differently to firm profitability. Third, it highlights that regional context, especially in Western provinces, matters greatly for ESG effectiveness. These results are useful both theoretically and practically. They help firms and regulators understand where and how ESG adds financial value in emerging markets. This part of the dissertation explores the effect of managerial overconfidence on ESG performance. It brings a novel behavioral perspective to ESG research by focusing not on external drivers, but on exclusive psychology as an internal mechanism of corporate sustainability. The hypothesis shown on 23 propose that overconfidence exclusives positively influence all three ESG dimensions: environmental H1, social H2, and governance H3, and overall ESG performance H4. These assumptions are grounded in the idea that confident managers tend to act boldly, pursue innovation, and invest in firm reputation. To test this hypothesis, I used a large dataset of 33,030 firm per year observations of Chinese A-share listed companies from 2013 to 2023. Managerial overconfidence was measured using CEO tenure above the industry median, a widely accepted behavioral proxy. All models variables are summarized in Table 1, as shown on slide 24. The regression result in Table 5 demonstrates that overconfidence has a strong and positive effect on all ESG components. The coefficient is largest for the social dimension. It's 0.248, suggesting that overconfident managers are particularly active in driving community engagement and CSR-related efforts. Governance and environmental performance are also significantly improved, with coefficient of 0.102 and 0.0722, respectively. These results are statistically significant at 1% level. To ensure robustness, Table 6 shows the 2 SLS regression using large overconfidence as an instrument. Results remain consistent, confirming the reliability of the findings. The social dimension again shows the highest impact. It's 0.246, reinforcing the behavioral interpretation. On slide 25, Table 7 summarizes the hypothesis testing results. All four hypotheses are supported. This validates the theoretical claim that exclusive psychology, especially overconfidence, can be a driver of sustainability performance. The scientific novelty lies in identifying a positive behavioral pathway between exclusive traits and ESG outcomes. Most ESG studies focus on regulations, market pressure, or ownership. This study shows that internal exclusive characteristics, especially confidence, matters just as much. This expands ESG theory by integrating idea from behavioral corporate finance. The last part is conclusion. Key conclusion of the dissertation are summarized on slide 27 and 28. First, a holistic CSR ESG management framework was developed that integrates ethical foundations with performance mechanisms, enabling firms to embed CSR into their governance and reporting systems. This approach offers a coherent strategic model that aligns business purpose with long-term societal value. For the first time, managerial overconfidence was empirically confirmed as a behavioral driver of ESG performance. The strongest impact was observed in social outcomes, with governance quality acting as a key moderator. Third, the study refined governance analysis by showing that board independence and specialized committees enhance ESG disclosure, while board size and CEO duality have no effect. Surprisingly, frequent board meetings were associated with weaker sustainability performance. Fourth, a new CSR typology leaders, developers, and minimalists was developed, revealing strategic variation in firm behavior across 6 CSR dimensions. This typology is a useful tool for benchmarking and demonstrate that deeper CSR engagement yields better financial and reputational outcomes. Fifth, the study confirmed that state ownership and moderate managerial shareholding improve ESG results. In contrast, high concentration of ownership has no positive effect, underlining the importance of equity governance alignment. Sixth, ESG financial performance linkages were found to differ regionally, with Western China showing the strongest positive correlation. These findings highlight the need to adapt sustainability strategies to local institutional and market conditions. Finally, a unified CSR ESG model was proposed, bridging quantitative ESG indicators with CSR's ethical commitments. It provides both a conceptual and a practical foundation for aligning global standards with local governance practices. What follows are my scientific publications related to my PhD research. This is one journal article indexed in the scopes. These are 6 articles published in the specialized scientific publications of Ukraine. These are 3 conference papers published in academic conferences. Thank you for your listening. My whole dissertation report is over here. You can put forward any comments or questions.
Thank you very much. The report is complete. Please ask questions. Professor Alvina Orехова.
Thank you, Professor Stoyanets. Dear PhD students, thank you for your presentation, and I have a question for you, please. Your study suggests that managerial overconfidence have a positive impact of ESG outcomes, especially in the social dimension. However, overconfidence is typically associated with excess risk-taking and suboptimal decision. Could you clarify how you justify this positive relationship and how governance quality moderates these effects?
Thank you for this important question. Our findings indeed diverge from the dominant narrative that overconfidence always leads to negative outcomes. In the context of Chinese listed firms, we observed that confident executives are more likely to launch broad, socially driven initiatives, especially in areas like community engagement and employee welfare. These actions align well with ESG goals. However, our analysis also showed that the effect of overconfidence is highly dependent on governance quality. where oversight is strong through independent boards and audit committees. Overconfidence fuels innovation and long-term thinking, but where governance is weak, it results in symbolic and superficial ESG actions. Thus, governance plays a filtering role. It turns exclusive boldness into either a productive or performative force.
Okay, thank you so
Thank you.
much. And I have one more question. Please, the ESG financial performance relationship has been widely studied, including the emerging markets. What is the added value of your analysis in this area? How does your study go beyond confirming a positive link between ESG and profitability?
You are absolutely right. This link has been examined extensively. The novelty of our study lies in disaggregating ESG into individual components and analyzing their distinct financial impacts using a large longitudinal dataset of Chinese firms. Moreover, we identifying significant regional heterogeneity. ESG performance improves profitability mainly in Western provinces, while the effect is weak or absent in Central and West and Eastern regions. This shows that institutional context, not just ESG scores, determines financial value, offering a fresh insights or localized sustainability strategy in China. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I am satisfied with answer.
So continue. Tatiana Harchenko, your question, please.
Okay, thank you, Professor Natalia. Thank you for your presentation of scientific research, and I would like to express my gratitude for the invitation to participate in the discussion of the dissertation as reviewer. And I have two questions. The first one, your corporate social responsibility typology distinction between leaders, developers, and minimalists. What was the rationale behind choosing these three categories, and how do you justify their validity as meaningful analytical distinctions rather than arbitrary groupings?
Thank you for this important question. The classification was based on 6 key CSR dimensions, including environmental efforts, governance practices, and stakeholder engagement. We used K-mean clustering on standard engagement scores, and the statistical diagnostic confirmed that a 3-clustered solution offered the best explanatory fit. These groups are not arbitrary. They show consistent differences in financial, operational, and reputational outcomes. Leaders exhibit high CSR intensity across all dimensions. Developers show targeted but growing efforts. Minimalists engage only symbolically. This typology captures real strategic variation and offers a practical tool for benchmarking and CSR planning in emerging markets. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the next one. Slide 13 presents a conceptual comparison between corporate social responsibility and ESG. What is the practical relevance of distinguishing these two frameworks, and how does your model use this distinction to guide corporate strategy in your research?
This distinction matters because CSR and ESG serve different audience and operate through different mechanisms. CSR is value-driven and reputational, while ESG is risk-driven and performance-oriented. Our model uses these differences to propose an integration pathway. CSR provides the ethical and the cultural foundation, while ESG supplies the measurable structure for implementation and reporting. Together, they enable firms to align stakeholder trust with investor accountability in on-field strategy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Continue. Next question from Pavlo Brin. You're welcome.
Thank you. Actually, many thanks for your interesting paper and for your interesting report. But I have two questions. The first one, is there any relationship between ESG reporting and companies' competitiveness? What do you think?
Yes, such a relationship exists. This study demonstrates that using one of the key indicators of a firm's firm competitiveness, namely return on assets, in short, ROA. Thank you.
Okay, and the second question, sorry, which CSR concept is the basis for ESG reporting? What do you think?
Thank you for this important question. The concept that most directly initiated ESG reporting is the triple bottom line framework. John L. Kinton created triple bottom line concept in 1994 and proposed evaluating a company's success not only through its financial performance, means profit, but also by its impact on society and the environment. It became the foundation for the development of non-financial reporting, as it was the first to systematically integrate the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of corporate responsibility. Thank you.
Many thanks. I'm satisfied with answers.
So continue. Konstantin Bezverkhy, your question, please.
Thank you, dear Natalia Stoyanets. And I have two questions. The first question, slide 25 presents the hypothesis testing results related to manager overconfidence. How can you ensure that overconfidence as measured by CEO tenure truly reflects behaviors, traits, and not simply organizational stability or experience?
Thank you for this important and thoughtful question. To address its potential ambiguity in interpreting CEO tenure, our study carefully relies on existing behavioral finance literature, which has validated tenure above industry median as a proxy for overconfidence. We acknowledge that tenure may also indicate stability or accumulated expertise. To mitigate this, we include multiple control variables such as firm age, board composition, and ownership concentration to isolate behavioral effects. Furthermore, the robustness test using the leaked instrumental variables confirms that observed positive impact on ESG is consistent and significant. This strengthens our interpretation that managerial overconfidence, not merely tenure or experience, plays a distinctive behavioral role in shaping ESG outcomes in Chinese firms. Thank you.
And second question, your regressions results on slide 22 show a positive link between ESG performance and financial outcomes in certain regions. How do you interpret the variation across regions, and what might this imply for firms or regulators' operation in less responsive areas?
An excellent question. Thank you. The regional variation highlights that ESG impact is not uniform across China. It is strongest in Western provinces, where ESG investments are likely seen as a signal of credibility and long-term commitment in less developed markets. In more saturated Eastern regions, where ESG may be more common or even institutionalized, its marginal financial value could be diluted for firms. This suggests that ESG strategy should be regionally tailored. For regulators, it implies that one-size-fits-all incentives may not be effective. Context matters, and the result strengthens the case for differentiated ESG policies aligned with local market maturity and stakeholder expectations. Thank you.
I hope you are satisfied, Konstantin. And some question from me, ЮЙ Чжунчень, so interesting and deep research. And I have the same two questions. First question, slide 17 presents a CSI typology dividing firms into leaders, developers, and minimalists. How can this typology be used predictively or strategically rather than just descriptively?
Thank you for this thoughtful point. While the typology is based on observed engagement patterns, its strategic value lies in its ability to anticipate organizational behavior. For instance, developers often show upward CSR looks and may evolve into leaders under supportive governance or policy incentives. Conversely, minimalists may remain static unless exposed to external pressure. By linking typology stage to financial and reputational outcomes, firms can forecast the strategic returns of deepening their CSR engagement, where policymakers can design targeted interventions based on firms' likely responsiveness. In that way, the typology is not only diagnostic, it becomes a tool for forward-looking sustainability strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, I'm satisfied. And one more question. Slide 23 summarizes the positive impact of managerial overconfidence of ecological, social, and governance outcomes. Could this effect differ depending on the type of ESG activity, for example, compliance-based versus innovation-driven initiatives?
That's an excellent distinction. Yes, the effect of the overconfidence is likely to vary depending on the nature of ESG activity. Overconfident executives tend to favor visible, high-impact initiatives, often innovation-driven or reputation-enhancing programs, especially in social and environmental domains. However, for more compliance-based, routine disclosure or governance reforms, their enthusiasm may be lower. This asymmetry explains why the strongest effect in our study appears in the social pillar, where visibility and ambition plays a larger role. It also underscores the importance of strong governance to channel that ambition into balanced ESG performance. Thank you.
Thank you, I'm satisfied. No more questions. Thank you, ЮЙ Чжунчень. Now you have a few minutes rest before the next procedure of defense. Дозвольте мені ознайомити присутніх з висновком про наукову новизну, теоретичне та практичне значення результатів дисертації. Враховуючи те, що висновок знаходиться на офіційному сайті і всі бажаючі, хто хотів з ними ознайомились, весь зачитувати не буду, але маю виголосити основні моменти. Перше, що було відзначено, це актуальність дослідження, і дисертант наполягає на тому, що і зроблено акцент за необхідності інтегрованого підходу до стратегічного управління корпоративною соціальною відповідальністю, яке охоплює вирівнювання цілей з корпоративною стратегією, впровадження принципів у ключові операційні функції, від постачання до управління персоналом, забезпечення ефективного контролю з боку ради директорів і спеціалізованих комітетів, застосування чітких індикаторів ефективності і підтримання постійного діалогу із стейкхолдерами з метою збереження довіри та адаптивності. Щодо зв'язку роботи з науковими програмами та планами та темами, то виконана робота відповідно до в рамках плану кафедри, це розвиток корпоративної звітності зі сталого розвитку, звітності та інфраструктури обслуговування, та розвитку корпоративного управління та корпоративних відносин на засадах сталого розвитку. Висновок зазначає, що мета і завдання дослідження, які поставлені, виконана, визначено об'єкт, предмет дослідження, хочу зупинити увагу на науковій новизні одержаних результатів, а саме, що перше в дослідженні концептуалізована та формалізована цілісну модель стратегічного управління корпоративної соціальної відповідальності, що об'єднує багаторівневе корпоративне управління, операційну інтеграцію, динамічну взаємодію зі стейкхолдерами в єдину систему. Запропонована модель поєднує теоретичні основи з практичними інструментами та забезпечує інтеграцію на структурному, процесному та оціночному рівнях корпоративного управління. Удосконалено та розширено рамки дискусу через виявлення впливу управлінської самовпевненості на ефективність реалізації сталого розвитку в китайських публічних компаніях, на відміну від більшості попередніх праць, які акцентували увагу, переважно на зовнішніх детермінатах, автор підкреслює роль поведінкових внутрішніх факторів. Також уточнено вплив системи корпоративного управління на ефективність екологічного, соціального і державного управління, запропоновано детальний емпіричний аналіз публічних компаній Китаю, на відміну від попередніх досліджень, часто ґрунтувалися на узагальненнях або західних моделях, систематизована, проаналізована значущість незалежності ради директорів, частки управлінського та державного володіння в контексті китайських інституційних реалій, удосконалена типологізацію стратегії корпоративної соціальної відповідальності шляхом розроблення емпіричного обґрунтованої класифікації китайських компаній за рівнем залучення до корпоративної соціальної відповідальності. Поглиблене розуміння впливу характеристик ради директорів на прозорість нефінансової звітності в китайських публічних компаніях. Встановлено, що незалежність ради та наявність спеціалізованих комітетів позитивно впливають на якість розкриття інформації щодо сталого розвитку, тоді як розмір ради seniority не мають послідовного ефекту. Розширення розуміння зв'язку між екологічною, соціальною та управлінською фінансовою результатами шляхом представлення емпіричних дослідів та доказів на основі даних китайських компаній. А також набуло подальшого розвитку шляхом розробки інтегрованої моделі, яка поєднує вимірювання показників з етичними та добровільними засадами корпоративної соціальної відповідальності. Розглядали ці підходи як паралельні або незалежні. Автор запропонував цілісну модель управління корпоративною сталістю, що враховує як стратегічні, так і операційні аспекти. Щодо практичного значення одержаних результатів, то дисертація пропонує цілісну модель стратегічного управління для китайських публічних компаній, яка усуває розрив між декларованими зобов'язаннями і фактичними бізнес-практиками. Також результати дослідження підкреслюють ключову роль таких елементів управління, як склад ради директорів, незалежний нагляд, наявність комітетів із корпоративної соціальної відповідальності, забезпечення ефективної реалізації стратегії соціальної відповідальності. Щодо апробації результатів дослідження, то вони були представлені на міжнародних конференціях. Особистий внесок автора в одержання наукових результатів, викладених в дисертації, не викликає сумніву. Щодо дотримання принципів академічної доброчесності, то свідчить про високий рівень її унікальності та автентичності. Це звіт на плагіат. Щодо структури і обсягу роботи, то вона, загальний обсяг основного тексту становить 230 сторінок, включаючи 45 таблиць та 10 рисунків. Мова дисертації, вона написана грамотно англійською мовою, демонструє високий рівень наукового стилю та викладу. І зупинюсь на висновку, що дисертаційна робота ЮЙ Чжунчень на тему стратегічного управління корпоративної соціальної відповідальності в китайських публічних компаніях, узгодженість корпоративного управління на фінансовій звітності та економічної ефективності, подана на здобуття ступеня доктора філософії зі спеціальності 073 менеджмент за своїм науковим рівнем та практичною цінністю, повністю відповідає вимогам пункту 6 Постанови Кабінету міністрів України про затвердження порядку порядку присудження ступеня доктора філософії та скасування рішення разової спеціалізованої вченої ради закладу вищої освіти наукової установи про присудження ступеня доктора філософії від 12.01.2022 року номер 44 та вимогам про оформлення дисертації затвердженням наказу МОН України від 12.01.2017 номер 40 та відповідає напрямку наукового дослідження освітньо-наукової програми Сумського національного аграрного університету зі спеціальності 073 менеджмент. Тому переходимо до обговорення дисертаційної роботи ЮЙ Чжунчень. We begin the discussion of the dissertation work by ЮЙ Чжунчень. I invite a review to speak Arvina Orехова, Doctor of Economic Science, Professor, Head of the Department of Management named after Professor Mikhailova, Sumy National Agrarian University. You are welcome.
Thank you, Professor Steinitz. Dear colleague, I will not read my entire review as an official reviewer. My review is on the website and can be fully reviewed by the PhD student and the scientific community. Now I want to voice some of these parts. So, in general, ЮЙ Чжунчень dissertation research is main full and competency scientific work that competency covers the current problems of strategic management of corporate social responsibility in Chinese public companies. The work is distinguished by its analytical depth, modern methodology, and interdisciplinary approach. At the same time, despite the high level of scientific argumentation, some aspects of research may be a subject of future improvement, classification, or deeper disclosure, in particular in terms of comparative analysis with other countries, institutional influence or behavioral factors of management or adaptation of the proportional model to small and medium-sized enterprises. Among these aspects, it is worth mention. The first, in sub-chapter 2.2, linking ESG outcomes to corporate financial performance, evidence from Chinese regional context, a detailed analysis of the impact of ESG indication on the financial performance of companies is carried out, taking into account the regional context. Given the impressive scale of the empirical base, it would be advisable to provide basic information on the distribution of observation by region. An indication of the shares of each region in the total sample, in particular of pages 102-122, would strengthen the argumentation of regional comparison and confirm the representativeness of the analysis. Next, in the subchapter 2.3, Executive Psychology in CRI Strategy, the ESG impact on managerial confidence. The use of a proxy indication of tuner of excess overconfidence of managers is justified. At the same time, the result could be more confidence if the author had included alternative metrics, for example, behavioral indication or elements or linguistic analysis of SEO public speech. Conductions, robust checks with additional proxy approaches would increase in the confidence in the empirical conclusions. Next, in subchapter 3.3, strategic integration and financial consequences of CSRI implementation, the author proposes a classification of companies according to the level of strategic integration of CRI, leaders, developers, minimalists. Despite the clarity state criteria for the typology, it would be useful to provide example of specific companies for each category. This would make the typology not only conceptual valuable, but also practical articulate in the analytical and applied plan. Next, subchapter 3.1 Executive Psychology and Strategic CRI Behavioral. Through the analyze the relationship between psychological characteristic and strategic orientation in the field of CSR. The author note the overconfident managers demonstrate a great tendency to surpass social initiatives. However, it would be appropriate to supplement the analysis with consideration on how such managers access to long-term risk associated with environmental investment. The aspect remained outside the scope of consideration. And finally, the final review of Chapter 3 provides a number of managerial conclusions that have significant applied value for companies. At the same time, the text almost completely lacks emphasis of potential considerations for regulatory policy. Given the focus of the dissertation on public companies in China, it would be appropriate to briefly outline possible direction for state stimulation of strategic CRS implementation, in particular through disclosure policy instruments, rating mechanism, or corporate standard. Despite some remarks, ЮЙ Чжунчень dissertation work make a significant contribution to the development of scientific approaches to strategic management of corporate social responsibility in the context of the Chinese economy. The research is characterized by a high-level theoretical elaboration through empirical analysis and practical orientation, which makes it valuable both the scientific community and for specialists in management, politics, and business. The above remark do not reduce the overall positive impression of the work and may be useful for future development of the topic within the framework of future research project. Таким чином, продовжу далі українською мовою щодо відповідності дисертації дослідження як висновок. Дисертаційна робота ЮЙ Чжунчень на тему стратегічне управління корпоративною соціальною відповідальністю в китайських публічних компаніях, узгодженість корпоративного управління, нефінансової звітності та економічної ефективності, яка подана до захисту у спеціалізовану вчену раду на здобуття ступеня доктора філософії з галузі знань 07 управління та адміністрування за спеціальністю 073 менеджмент, за своїми актуальністю, науково-теоретичним рівнем, основними результатами, основними положеннями і результатами, опублікованими в фахових виданнях, новизною результатів та практичним значенням відповідає вимогам наказу МОН України номер 40 від 12 січня 2017 року про затвердження вимог до оформлення дисертації та постанови Кабінету міністрів України від 12 січня 2022 року за номером 44 про затвердження порядку присудження ступеня доктора філософії та скасування рішення разової спеціалізованої вченої ради закладу вищої освіти наукової установи про присудження ступеня доктора філософії зі змінами, внесеними згідно постановою Кабінету міністрів номер 341 від 21 березня 2022 року. Зміст дисертації відповідає паспорту спеціальності. Дякую.
So, ЮЙ Чжунчень, you are given the opportunity to respond to comments that have been posted in review.
Okay. Thank you for the valuable and constructive remarks. I fully agree that presenting the distribution of observations across regions would improve the robustness of the regional ESG performance analysis. This addition will be included in future publications. I also acknowledge that using alternative overconfidence proxies, such as behavioral or linguistic indicators, could enhance the credibility of the findings, and I plan to incorporate such robustness checks in follow-up research. Regarding the CSR typology, I appreciate the suggestion to create to provide concrete firm examples for each category, which would support a practical application. And the question of how overconfident CEOs perceive long-term environmental risks is highly relevant and will be further explored. Finally, I agree that the regulatory implications of the study's findings should be more clearly outlined. Future work will propose policy instruments to support strategic CSR, such as enhanced disclosure, ESG ratings, or incentive frameworks. Thank you once again for these insightful recommendations. Thank you.
Okay.
Satisfied with the answer?
Yes, I am satisfied with answer. Thank you.
So we continue. I invite a review to speak. Тетяна Харченко, candidate of economic science, associate professor of the Department of Management, named after Professor Mikhailova, Sumy National Agrarian University. You are welcome.
I'm acquainted with the thesis. My full review is posted on the official website of the Sumy National Agrarian University with free access. The scientific community has had the opportunity to read it. Therefore, with your permission, I will focus on the main points. The dissertation of the topic Strategic Management of Corporate Social Responsibility in China's listed companies, the Nexus of Corporate Governance, CSR reporting and economic performance, highlights the need to rethink the relationship between ESG indicators, corporate governance, and financial performance. Attention is paid to the role of Chief Executive Officer's managerial confidence, board composition, ownership structure, and internal control as factors that can both enhance and constrain the effectiveness of CSR policies. The author also examines regional differences in the effects of CSR on corporate profitability, with a new step towards understanding the diversity of the impact of ESG practices in China. I would like to emphasize that the results obtained are of interdisciplinary value and can be used in educational programs, professional training of managers of CSR consultants, as well as in the development of industry standards of ESG reporting. The author analyzes in detail the relationship between board structure, formal ESG reporting tools, financial performance, and personal factors that influence the implementation of sustainable development strategy. The work is distinguishing by its interdisciplinary approach and corresponds to the modern requirements for research in the field of management and corporate sustainability. The element of scientific novelty that has been improved is noteworthy typologization of corporate social responsibility strategies by developing an empirically based classification of China's company by the level of corporate social responsibility involvement, leaders, developers, and minimalists. Concerning the structure, I would like to emphasize the scientific interest, in particular a unique empirical analysis of the relationship between ESG performance and financial results of companies in the context of the regional context of China over 23,000 years was carried out, which allowed for the first time to identify regional effects of CSR on profitability. Section 3 also formulates a six-pillar model of CSR institutionalization. It includes strategic integration, transparent reporting, governance, culture context, innovation, and stakeholder engagement. The main results of ЮЙ Чжунчень dissertation research have been duly reflected in scientific publication. In total, 10 scientific papers were prepared, including one article in Scopus database. 6 articles were published in professional scientific journals of Ukraine, and the results of research were presented at the 3 international scientific and practical conferences. In view of the above positive aspects, let me focus on the main comments and suggestions. The first one, subsection 2.1, strategic board design and its impact on CSR reporting and ESG disclosure, page 88-116, provides an in-depth analysis of the impact of board characteristics on the transparency of non-financial reporting. It's worth noting that they also take into account industry heterogeneity, page 91, which adds to the analytical accuracy. At the same time, the impact of characteristics such as gender diversity or board internationalization was left out of the modeling. Even a short test of these variables could have provided additional insight, especially in the context of the globalization of ESG approaches. Second one, in the introductory part of Chapter 2, Strategies Drivers of CSR in China's listed companies, a government structure, ESG disclosure and financial outcomes, page 88. The author rightly argues for transition to empirical analysis and the need to equitify the impact of structural and behavioral factors on CSR. At the same time, it would be appropriate to briefly explain the choice of three areas of empirical focus: board structure, regional context, and executive psychological as a single analytical framework which follows from the previous theoretical explanation. The next one, in subsection 2.3, executive psychology in CSR strategy, the CSH impact of managerial overconfidence, page 134, 151. The results of the regression analysis are interpreted in a logical and resonant manner. At the same time, the explanation of the principles of selection of control variables remains fragmentary. It would be useful to clarify why such variables were chosen, company size, industry, and what previous studies the author relies on this choice, which would increase the transparency of the model. Number 4. In subsection 3.3, Strategic Integration and Financial Consequences of CSR Implementation, page 203-220, the author rightly notes that the financial performance of CSR strategies is higher for companies classified as the leaders compared to minimalists, page 212 and 213. This is an important observation. At the same time, it does not take into account the possibility of a time lag between the implementation of ESG initiatives and the financial effect. Addressing this aspect in future studies would allow for a deeper understanding of the time dynamic of CSR effectiveness. Number 5. In general, the thesis leaves the impression of methodologically sound and clearly structured work. At the same time, in some places, in particular page 91, 109, and 177, there are tables without brief captions of post-table explanation of the results. The addition of brief interpretive comments after each table would be improved the perception of the material and facilitated orientation in the empirical part of the study. These remarks are constructive and don't reduce the overall scientific value of the paper, and correspondences of the dissertation of the specialty and profile of the council. ЮЙ Чжунчен's dissertation of the topic Strategic Management of Corporate Social Responsibility in China's listed companies, the Nexus of Corporate Governance, CSR Reporting and Economic Performance, which was submitted for defense to the Specialized Academic Council for obtaining the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the field of knowledge 07 Management in Administration specialty 073 Management according to its relevant scientific theoretical level, main results of justification, main provision and results published in professional publication, novelty of the production and practical significance. It meets the requirements of the Order of the Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine number 40 from 12 of January 2017 on approval of requirements for the preparation of a dissertation and resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine's date from 12 of January 2022 number 44 on approval of the procedure for awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and cancellation of the decision of the one-time Specialized Academic Council of a higher education institution, scientific institution on awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. These changes introduced in accordance with resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers number 341 from 21 of March 2022. The content of the dissertation corresponds to the passport of the specialty. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, ЮЙ Чжунчень, you are given the opportunity to respond to comments that have been posted the reviewers review.
Thank you for the thoughtful and constructive comments. I fully agree that variables such as broad gender diversity and internationalization could enrich the analysis of ESG disclosure. The dimensions will be considered in future models to reflect global governance trends more precisely. I also acknowledge the need to clarify the rationale behind selecting the 3 empirical focus area in chapter 2. A brief method logical bridge between the theoretical discussion and the empirical design will be added in future revisions. Regarding the selection of control variables in the overconfidence model, your point is well taken. A clear reference to existing literature will improve transparency and robustness. I also appreciate your observation on the timing of CSR financial efforts. Incorporating time lags into future analysis would indeed provide a deeper understanding of impact dynamics. Finally, I agree that more concise explanations following empirical tables, particularly those on pages 91, 109, and 177, would support reader comprehension. These comments are very helpful and refining future publications. Thank you very much.
Are you
Thank
satisfied, Tatiana
Thank
Mykolaivna?
you so much. I'm satisfied.
So, continue. I invite an official opponent to speak, Pavlo Briny, candidate of economic science, associate professor, professor of Department of Management, National Technical University, Kharkiv Polytechnic Institute. You are welcome.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me as a reviewer for this interesting paper. This is my field of interest, so many thanks for everybody. My full review is presented at the official site of the university, so I'd like to speak about some key points of the review. First of all, I'd like to begin with high relevance of the topic of the research. Now we are at the crucial, we humanity are in the crucial point, and we are choosing the way of building economy, and all future generation depend on these decisions. So I'd like to say that for now, all the papers connected with sustainable development, ESG reporting, corporate social responsibility have high relevance. And additionally, the high relevance of the paper presented here today is confirmed by the fact that the PhD student took part in the scientific governmental research. The degree of validity of scientific statements, conclusions, and recommendations also very high. The structure of the paper is quite logical. The paper begins with analyzing some theoretical foundations, and then there are some hypotheses, and in this part of dissertation, the PhD student successfully uses such methods of correlations analysis. And finally, there are some applied recommendations that can be used by management of companies. I would like to state that the results of the paper are published in specialized Ukrainian journals and also in the Scopus Index journal, and also the results were discussed during a number of the conference. So we can say that all scientific humanity had possibility to analyze the main results of the PhD student. Also, as I told before, but I'd like to stress it one more time, that the paper has practical value because the results of the paper can be used by management of real companies. However, there are some discussion points and critical remarks, and I'd like to present this information in the details. The first, in the classification of enterprises into leaders, developers, and minimalists, it is table 1.7. The methodology doesn't account for the cases where one of the indicator may fall outside the defined the boundaries of a particular categories and instead align with another. Furthermore, the calculation of scores used to evaluate these categories, it is figure 1.4, lacks transparency and requires clarification. Sorry. The second, at the beginning of section 2.1, the author formulates the research hypothesis. It is the hypotheses were formulated at the pages from 88 to 89. So it were successfully formulated 5 hypotheses. However, the author justifies the confirmation or rejections of these hypotheses based on empirical findings. It is table 2.6, page 99. However, it remains unclear why these specific hypotheses were chosen for the analysis. The fact states that it lacks some clarification. The third, in the section 2.2, the regional classification of China into Western, Central, and Eastern zones or parts, it is figure 2.1 at page 130, differs from the same regional classification into Western, Central, and Eastern presented in the section 3.3. It is figure 3.5 on the page 230. I think I understand that it could be different classifications. However, I think PhD student should choose only one classification and use it for all the paper. The fourth point. The section 2.2 presents a study of the relationship between return on assets, ROA, and ESG reporting using both regression and correlation models. But we believe that the use of ROA as a dependent variable in the analysis is methodologically inappropriate in this context. We believe that the author should have limited the analysis to correlation methods only. The fifth, the graphical representation of table 3.12, it is page 184. In figure 3.1, it is page 187 as suboptimal. The intervals on the x-axis do not correspond to the value in the third column of the reference table. It is because in the table the author uses paired values, and the graph uses only single values. So it is actually the same point as the classification, so I think the author should use one point of presenting in the table or in the figure. And the sixth, actually it is maybe not crucial point, because the PhD student successfully represented this information orally. I asked the question about it. However, I'd like to also present this point, that the literature review references only recent academic publications. However, the fundamental works by key theorists in the field of corporate social responsibility, such as Bowen, Carroll, Elkington, Freeman, have been ignored. Yes, we understand that PhD student knows all these works because he used one of these work, for example, triple bottom line theory by Elkington, in his answer. However, we strongly believe that any CSR, any research connected with CSR should be based at these like basic stones of CSR theories. But I'd like to state that all these points are not crucial, and we can evaluate the level of the PhD thesis as quite high. Outcomes. So the topic of the thesis is relevant, the structure is well thought out, the material is presented logically and consistently. The results obtained in the dissertation collectively solve an important scientific problem. The dissertation is written in English and prepared in accordance with the current provisions, norms, and rules established by the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. So we can say that the content of the thesis corresponds to the research topic and specialty 073, management. The results obtained by the author have theoretical, methodological, and applied significance, and can be used in not only in scientific work but also in educational and practical activities. According to our view, the paper meets all the requirements of Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, and its author deserves to be awarded to scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy in specialty 073 Management. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pavlo. ЮЙ Чжунчень, you are given the opportunity to respond to comments that have been posted in reviews.
Thank you for the detailed and thoughtful remarks. Each point raises valid concerns that contribute to improving the overall quality and the clarity of the dissertation. Regarding comment 1, I agree that some firms may display mixed CSR characteristics across categories. In future refinement, I will consider developing a weighted scoring or further classification model to account for such overlaps. I also acknowledge the need to better explain the scoring methodology in figure 1.4 and will ensure clear guidance is provided. On comment 2, the selection of hypotheses was grounded in empirical studies on border effectiveness in ESG reporting, but I agree that a brief rationale should be added to explain the choice more explicitly. As for comment 3, the different regional groupings were based on varying research objectives in chapter 2 and 3.3. One focused on ESG financial links, the other is on CSR typology distribution. That said, future work will harmonize the classification for consistency. Considering comment 4, I understand the concern about ROA as a dependent variable. However, I used both correlation and regression techniques to capture both association and directional impact, following similar approaches in ESG literature. In comment 5, I agree that the inconsistency between table 3.12 and figure 3.1 should be corrected. The visual presentation will be adjusted to reflect exact interviews. Finally, on comment 6, I appreciate the reminder about foundational CSR thinkers, while the study focused on recent developments. I recognize the importance of integrating classic contributions from Bonn, Caron, El Kingdom, and Freeman to provide stronger theoretical grounding. These references will be included in future revisions and related publications. Thank you once again for your valuable suggestions. Thank you.
Pavlo Volodymyrovich, are you satisfied with the answer?
Yes, many thanks. Actually, I'm more than satisfied. I would say thank you for comments for every the point. Thank you, ЮЙ Чжунчень.
Thank you. So continue. I invite an official opponent to speak on Безверхий Константин Викторович, Doctor of Science and Economics, Associate Professor at the Department of Financial Analysis and Audit, State University of Trade and Economics, Kyiv. You're welcome.
Thank you, Natalia Stoyanets. I will not go into detail as the entire review is available online, and the applicant and the scientific community have had the opportunity of familiarize themselves with it, taking into account the interdisciplinary context and the latest research approaches. Some elements of the analysis could be detailed or supplemented. The comments below do not diminish the work's overall scientific value, but are intended to contribute to its improvement. In chapter 1.1, page 2640, the author convincingly justifies the transition from a normative, ethical to a strategic institutional approach to CSR development. The integration of general theoretical provisions with contemporary Chinese practice in the presentation is commendable. However, the section structure seems to focus primarily on the macro-political dimension with the microeconomics level of companies' motivations for implementation. CSR receiving less attention. Expanding on this aspect would strike a better balance between the strategic and behavioral dimensions of CSR in the conceptual analysis. In chapter 1.1, the other reassembly highlights the development on the conceptual foundations of CSR and ESG, paying the due attention on the transformations of the approaches in corporate practice. At the same time, despite mentioning the transition of the strategic management logic, there is a lack of critical assessments of potential contradictions between companies' short-term goal and long-term principles of sustainable development. For example, a discussion of the risk of greenwashing as a response to external pressure on CSR could be important. The inclusion of such an analytical perspectives would add depth of the discussion of the motivational nature of CSR and its practical limitation in transformational economics. In chapter 1.3, the other attempt to combine the analysis of companies' CSR behavior with characteristics of managers and corporate governments parameters is particularly valuable. At the same time, the review of the literature of managerial philosophy would have been more complete if it included reference to the classic works of Hendricks and Mason. 1984, an upper echelon theory, which would have allowed the selected behavioral variables to be justified at the stage of theoretical analysis. Chapter 3.2 effectively relevance the relationship between ownership structure of both activity and CSR indicators. At the same time, as noted on page 177 and 178, the analysis does not cover cases of separation and combination on the function of pair and chairman, which is a sensitive topics in corporate governments in China. Even a brief analysis of these configurations would have strengthened the argument. On page 117 and 121, at the beginning of chapter 2.2, the author uses a statistical model to successfully demonstrate the relations between ESG and financial performance. At the same time, the comparative analysis between regions, Western could be supplemented with a simple visuals such as swing chart or heat map. This would enable readers without extensive econometric training to better interpret the differences. The concluding remarks in section 3, chapter 3, page 221, present several valuable management conclusions. However, there is no emphasis on potential regulatory implications. Given the dissertation focus on Chinese public companies, it would be appropriate to briefly suggest political or regulatory steps that the state could support to strengthen the implementation of CSR strategies. Thus, the dissertation on strategic management of corporate social responsibility in Chinese listed companies as the nexus of corporate governance, CSR reporting, and economic performance meets the requirement of Order Number 40 of the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, dated January 12 of 2017, on approval of requirements for the formatting of dissertation. Resolution of the Cabinet of Ministry of Ukraine number 44 of January 12, 2022, on approval of the procedure of awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and appealing the decision of the one-time specialized academic council of the higher education institution of scientific institutions on awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, and its author ЮЙ Чжунчень deserves to be awarded the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the specialty 073 Management in the field of knowledge 07 Management and Administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Yu Chuzhen. You are given the opportunity to respond to comments that have been posted in reviews review.
Thank you for the thoughtful and constructive comments. I fully agree that the micro-level drivers of CSR, such as trust building and risk reduction, as well as the tension between short-term incentives and long-term sustainability, should be addressed more deeply. These aspects will be reflected in future work. I also recognize the importance of referencing classic theories like upper echelons to ground the behavioral approach more clear. Regarding the empirical sections, I accept the value of including a brief discussion on CEO duality and adding geographical tools to show regional ESG performance differences. This would enhance both clarity and accessibility. Lastly, I agree that outlining potential regulatory implications would make the finding more actionable. Thank you once again for your insights. They are highly appreciated and will shape the next stage of this research. Thank you.
Konstantin Viktorovich, are you satisfied with the answer?
Thank you. I'm satisfied.
So, Yu Chuzhen, now you have some minutes rest, and we continue. According to the rules of the work of Specialized Academic Council, we proceed to discuss of the thesis of Yu Chuzhen. I emphasize that all members, present members of Academic Council, have the right to take part in discussions. Therefore, I ask those who want to speak about this work. Professor Alvina Orехова, random.
Okay, thank you, Professor Stoyanets. Dear colleague, first of all, I want to note the significant contribution of the presented dissertation to the issue of strategic management of corporate social responsibility. In the modern turbulent world of these issues are becoming especially relevant. The dissertation was completed under the scientific supervision of Professor Oleg Pasko, which indicates the importance of the conducted research. The presented research can be used as a basic for future research and in educational activities. Therefore, I support PhD student Yu Chunjian in his goal to obtain the scientific degree of Doctor of Philosophy and will vote for. Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to be next? I think Tatiana Харченко.
Okay. I would like to add in our discussion that the new vision of social responsibility management focuses not only on meeting basic ethical and legal standards, but also on integration social, environmental, and economic aspects into the company's development strategy. In the part of an overall business model that focus on long-term sustainability and value creation for all stakeholders, and transparency, social responsibility is a values-based approach, integration into the company's strategy, focus on sustainable development, technological innovation and social responsibility, flexibility and adaptability, measurement and transparency. In this context, I would like to add the author has successfully justified the use of tenure as an proxy for measuring top management confidence and shown its relationship with social and environmental ESG indicators. This straightens the rock of the 073 management. Despite the fact that some points have a discussionary character, I support positively. Thank you.
Thank you. Continue, Pavlo Bri.
Thank you. Actually, the first part, I'd like to maybe say again in the third part of my speech that was already told that any paper connected with sustainable development and corporate social responsibility is very important now. However, I'd like to add a very important point that in his paper, PhD student presented and proved the interconnection and interrelation between ESG reporting and some indicators of competitiveness of the company, namely return on assets, ROA. And what does it mean? It means that this way of development is not like only values of management, but it also has internal motivation. So it means that if company uses ESG reporting, namely, it means that company is becoming more not only more responsible but also more competitive. So thereafter, I'd like to stress that this is like the main driving force for using this methodology. So I will vote for rewarding of PhD student with the degree of PhD. Thank you.
Thank you. And Konstantin Bezverkhy, your opinion, please.
Thank you, dear Professor Stoyanets. The relevance of ЮЙ Чжунчень research lies in the fact that the author considered CSR not only as a declarative practice, but as a holistic system that encompasses behavioral factors, ownership structure, governance, futures, and strategic approaches to ESG. The work is particularly significant due to its focus on the Chinese context, which combines state influence, institutional transformation, and the country's ambitious plans in the field of sustainable development. Studying this experience is extremely valuable both for the scientific community and for practitioners who seek to adapt their tools to the realities of a transformational economy. Thank you.
Thank you. And my opinion, I want to say thank you to scientific supervisor Oleg Paсько to invite me to be the head of the council, constant head at one time council. Of course, I support the dissertation and I want the same say some few sentences. The relevance of the topic is beyond doubt, logical structure, novelty, practical recommendation, and I write my sentence. The dissertation work is devoted to a critical analysis of corporate governance mechanism and leadership characteristic, in particular the role of corporate social responsibility in the formation, implementation, effective strategies. And the scientific novelty deserves special attention. For the first time of the dissertation, holistic model of strategic management of corporate social responsibility in conceptualized and formalized, which combines multi-level corporate governance, operational integration, and dynamic interaction with stakeholders into a single system. The conceptual understanding of ecological, social, and governance and corporate social responsibility is improved by developing and integrated models that combines measurable indicators with ethical and voluntary corporate social responsibility principles. Unlike studies that consider these approaches as parallel of independent, the author's proposals and holistic models of corporate sustainability. But as for me, foreign experience has not been studied. I hope ЮЙ Чжунчень not stopped, and I consider that the dissertation work of ЮЙ Чжунчень on topic strategic management or corporate social responsibility in Chinese listed companies, the nexus of corporate governance, CSI reporting and economic performance, which is submitted for degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Specialty 073 Management, in terms of scientific level and practical value, fully meets of recommendment of paragraph 6 of the resolution of Cabinet of Ministries of Ukraine on approval of procedure for awarding of the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and cancellation of the design of the one-time special ed academic consent of institution of higher education, scientific institution, and awarding of degree of Doctor of Philosophy number 44 from 12 of January 2022, and the requirement for design of dissertation approved by the Order of Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine of number 40 from 12 January 2017. Correspond to the direction of scientific research and education and scientific program of the Sumy National Agrarian University in Specialty 073 Management. I support the dissertation and vote positive. Does anyone want to speak? But I think we forgot about our scientific supervisor, Oleg Paсько, what he's thinking about it.
Hello. So I believe that the Chen has worked hard and with dedication throughout all the years of study, and he is balanced and thoughtful researcher. What is seen in his work, and I fully support awarding him the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We continue. If there are no objection, I suggest ending of the dissertation. And now, Yu Chunjin, you have time to prepare fine speech. And нами попередньо було розроблено проєкт рішення спеціалізованої вченої ради, і дозвольте його оголосити. І зачитати. Спеціалізована вчена рада Сумського національного аграрного університету, Міністерства освіти і науки міста Суми прийняла рішення про присудження ступеня доктора філософії в галузі знань 07 управління та адміністрування на підставі прилюдного захисту дисертації стратегічного управління корпоративної соціальної відповідальності в китайських публічних компаніях, узгоджених з корпоративного управління на фінансової звітності та економічної ефективності англійською мовою. Тема звучить так: Strategic Management of Corporate Social Responsibility in Chinese Listed Companies, a Nexus of Corporate Governance, CSI Reporting and Economic Performance за спеціальністю 073 менеджмент. ЮЙ Чжунчень, 1996 року народження, громадянин Китайської Народної Республіки, має повну вищу освіту, здобуту в Цзінцзянському коледжі лісоаграрного університету Китаю 2019 року, а також ступінь магістра з харчових технологій, отриманий у Сумському національному аграрному університеті 2020 році. Сфера його професійної компетентності охоплює ландшафтний дизайн, харчові технології, управління персоналом, управління проектами та соціальну роботу. Аспірантуру закінчив у 2025 році Сумський національний аграрний університет Міністерства освіти і науки міста Суми. Дисертацію виконано в Сумському національному аграрному університеті. Науковий керівник Пасько Олег Віталійович, кандидат економічних наук, доцент кафедри обліку та оподаткування Сумського національного аграрного університету. Здобувач має 10 наукових публікацій, зокрема 6 у фахових видань України, 3 одноосібні, статтю у виданнях, що включені до наукометричних баз даних Scopus та Web of Science, а решта публікацій є матеріалами наукових конференцій. Переходимо до процедури відкритого голосування. І прошу членів спеціалізованої вченої ради проголосувати та озвучити рішення щодо присудження ЮЙ Чжунчень ступеня доктора філософії зі спеціальністю 073 менеджмент. Я, Стоянець Наталія Валерівна, голосую за присудження ЮЙ Чжунчень ступеня доктора філософії зі спеціальності 073 менеджмент. Професор Альвіна Орєхова, прошу проголосувати.
Я, Орєхова Альвіна Іванівна, голосую за присудження студенту ЮЙ Чжунчень наукового ступеня доктора філософії зі спеціальності 073 менеджмент.
Дякую. Наступна Тетяна Миколаївна Харченко.
Я, Харченко Тетяна, голосую за присудження ступеня доктора філософії ЮЙ Чжунчень.
Дякую. Павло Володимирович Брінь.
Я, Брінь Павло Володимирович, голосую за присудження ЮЙ Чжунчень ступеню PhD за спеціальністю 073 менеджмент.
Константин Вікторович Безверхий.
Я, Безверхий Костянтин Вікторович, голосую за присудження ЮЙ Чжунчень ступеня доктора філософії за спеціальністю 073 менеджмент.
Дякую. 5 голосів за, проти немає. На підставі результату відкритого голосування спеціалізована вчена рада присуджує ЮЙ Чжунчень ступінь доктора філософії в галузі знань 07 управління та адміністрування за спеціальністю 073 менеджмент. Чи є зауваження щодо рішення спеціалізованої вченої ради? Так, тому дозвольте привітати ЮЙ Чжунчень з успішним захистом дисертації. Let's say the word of congratulations, ЮЙ Чжунчень. The scientific council divided for you degree Doctor of Philosophy in specialty 073 Management. ЮЙ Чжунчень, would you like to say some words?
Yes. Dear committee members, professors, and guests, I sincerely thank Sumy National Agrarian University for the opportunity to complete my PhD studies and present this research. I deeply grateful to my supervisor, Professor Olen Pasco, for your guidance, patience, and belief in me. I also thank the academic staff, my colleagues, and my family for their consistent support. Doing this research during a full-scale war in Ukraine was emotionally and logistically difficult, but it gave me even more motivation to work with responsibility and purpose. I hope this study contributes not only to academic knowledge, but also to Ukraine's future as a strong, resilient, and innovative country. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations again. На цьому засідання спеціалізованої вченої ради вважається закритим. Дякую всім за роботу.
Навзаєм. Щиро дякую.
Дякую.
Дякую, до побачення.
До побачення.
Дякую, до побачення, до
Прошу.
побачення.
Запис. Так. Всім дякую. Бачите, хто там питав за час. Регламент у нас відпрацьований. 2 години.
Супер.
Все. Всім спасибо, всі свободні. Якраз час обіду. Дякую всім.